And welcome everybody to the AFC Northcast. That's right. The AFC Northcast, where we talk about NFL's hardest hitting division. Oh, well, there you go. Joey's got some good news for us. He's drinking some PBR. Fuck yeah.
Oh, award-winning beer.
Award winning. That's right. That being said, he's going to need it. He's going to need a whole 12 pack, 24 maybe even. This is a rough week for us, guys. Let's just throw it out there. This week was rough. The division got swept. Not a single win to talk about this week, so it's not going to be happy. We ain't going to like it. We ain't going to enjoy it, but we're doing it for you. That's right. We're here for you. So, we're here talking live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Check us out and watch us live, interact with us live, chat with us live. We've been getting some people interacting with us the last couple times. It's been fun. Send us your comments, your regards, your you sucks, whatever. We can tell you to fucking shove it. It'll all be good. And then other than that, tell your friends and family about the podcast. I gotta plug that, man. Look, guys, I gotta plug it every time. Tell everybody. Make it big. It's gonna be good stuff. Pigskin Pick'em. Yeah, join the Pigskin Pick'em. It's never too late. Dylan joined like 3/4 of the way through the season or something crazy like that. And when he did join, I want to say he won like almost every week that he was in. He did really well in the Pick'em last year. So we still got to have him on later on. We probably will. He's the resident Patriots insider. But that being said, join the Pick'em. This week's Pigskin Pick'em winner. Do you know who it was? Do you guys know who it was?
Yeah, it was Harry Bananas.
I was about to say Harry Bananas. That's right. We were just talking about him. He, I do want to say though that he, along with my wife and his wife, because him and his wife are from Cleveland. Oh well, I don't know if they're from Cleveland, but I know they're Browns fans. We're the only people that picked Cleveland in the pick'em. I actually had the Rams picked, but I got guilted into switching. So
yeah, he only got 2 games wrong.
Yeah, the one was Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the Colts and the Falcons, which why would you pick the Falcons? So, I mean, come on. But anyways.
A lot of people picked the Falcons, actually.
Yeah, then you're all a bunch of retards because I picked the Colts and I won that one. So, just saying.
Good job.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it.
You also picked the Bengals.
Yeah, but look, man, we'll get to that. We'll get to that game. All right, we'll get to it. No, but anyway, so join the Pick'em. It's fun. You just join in. You log in every week. You pick which team you think's going to win. It's good stuff. You guys like the Pick'em? It's good stuff.
I like it.
It's fun.
It's good. It's good
Great.
stuff.
Good stuff. So, yeah, this week's winner was Mike. Harry Bananas. All right, cool. You guys want to talk about football? Some actual games and stuff?
Yeah,
Guess
might
that's
as
what we're here
well
for.
exercise the demons.
Yeah, I guess so. Who's starting off first? I know we just talked about it, but
Bengals first.
Steelers first.
I think we're talking
Steelers
Steelers
That's
first.
right, Steelers first.
So the Steelers played at San Francisco. This is an undefeated team. This is definitely a Super Bowl contender. So it was obviously a big game between two juggernaut franchises. The commercials were filled with clips from the 70s Steelers and the 80s Niners. Definitely just two incredible organizations, a match of the Titans, you could call it. The game ended 6-3 Steelers in the first half, and then final score 24-20 49ers. So basically what Mike Tomlin said, I'm going to try and give you guys some Mike Tomlin
Yes,
quotes.
those were so good this week.
I love this.
We didn't work in concert to accentuate the positive. We didn't work in concert well enough to minimize the negative. I'm gonna unpack that for you now. In the first half, I just said the Steelers finished up 6-3. They did that while getting the 49ers to commit 4 turnovers. So they were +4 in turnover margin in the first half of the game, which was 6-3 Steelers. They had 2 turnovers that gave them the ball not in the red zone, but in field goal range, and that's exactly what they got. 2 field goals after 2 turnovers that gave them basically just a gimme points. So it's fair to say that I was never excessively confident about the outcome of this game based on the Steelers' ability to take advantage of these situations. Now, the media is really getting hung up on that point differential, but I will say this. The defense also capitalized in a different way to change points, and that's that the other two turnovers came in their red zone. So they actively took points away from the 49ers. So the offense definitely did do its job, but the defense was great. The first turnover was a TJ Watt interception, showed good reflexes to catch a deflection. The second turnover was a fumble recovery, if I'm not. No, the second turnover was Minka's interception. So, first round draft pick traded for Minka Fitzpatrick. He came in. He didn't know any of the plays. He doesn't care because he ran in there like a missile. And when the ball got deflected, his eyes were like laser targets. And he flashed his hands up there. He caught a ball that probably no one else in the Steelers secondary could catch. And basically, we all united in Pittsburgh in a deep-throated hurrah. And that was probably the high point of the game. So just talk about the Browns game. It's fine.
He didn't need to know the plays because he makes the plays. All right.
Ooh.
There you go.
Yeah,
Now,
he later tackled, I think, Mostert, 49ers' fourth string, still good running back, Mostert.
yeah.
Great low hit right on the ball. And caused another fumble that was recovered by the Steelers. It was great. The defense really played with a ton of heart. And then the second half started.
I have a nerd stat for you. So
I don't care about numbers. But
doesn't matter. I'm going to give it to you anyways. So in teams that were -4 in turnover differential, their record was 0-45-1. The 49ers are the first team to ever win after coming back from a -4 turnover differential.
Not true. So cool stat, irrelevant, because the Steelers committed 2 turnovers in the second half. So the game was finished at a +3 turnover differential. That is why the Steelers lost, you could argue.
Oh, well, yeah.
The classic James Conner end of the game fumble when it seems like you're snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. He did it against the Browns last year. He did it against Denver, and he did it this week. Also, Steelers had managed to pull ahead on the back of, I don't know if the Steelers actually got any first downs in this game. That's a lie. They got a couple, but there were no sustained drives. But in the second half, they learned that instead of punting every time, they could just throw really long touchdown passes, which was awesome and exciting, but it made the defense really tired. But with 5 minutes left in the game, the defense forced another turnover, basically by watching a botched timing snap and then falling on it. Good work, Devin Bush. Actually, that one was TJ Watt. All the big names got in on it. It's very exciting. But 4 plays later, James Conner turned it right back over. So that turnover was another one that didn't turn into points for the Steelers. It actually turned back into points for the 49ers. This team just couldn't get out of its own way, guys. The defense played with a ton of heart. I had no positive notes for the offense. But I rewatched the game today, and honestly, I thought they looked better than when I watched it live. I thought the offensive line looked okay. They gave pretty good pocket to Mason. Honestly, I think Mason just overthrew a few balls, and it was the wrong ones. Like key third downs, just a couple key passes, a couple key long balls. He didn't quite hit James Washington once down the left side, and first time starting, that stuff's going to happen. And I want to be more mad than I am, but the defense played really hard. Mark Barron can't even guard a fullback. So apparently that's another shitty free agent signing. Chalk that up for about 4 straight years of not knowing how to sign a free agent. I'm done. Someone talk.
Well, Kyle Juszczyk is a special fullback. Right. There's not many fullbacks in the league. He's basically a receiving tight end that plays fullback. The only other note that I had was the end around to Johnny Holton was actually sealed initially by a Mason Rudolph block.
Yeah,
it's good to see the young guy get his dumb face in there and block somebody.
Yeah, everybody was. Yeah, I mean, I promised you guys they'd come with the fury, and they did. Like everybody played with heart. Even like Connor, when I was watching it live, I wanted to say he had a bad game, but when I rewatched it yet again, like he was breaking tackles in the backfield, he was pushing the pile forward, he was being elusive in the receiving game when he occasionally got it. Like he's running well. If he didn't have that fumble, I'd say he had a great game and he's due for a breakout. The fumble's really unfortunate. It's definitely becoming a pattern.
Yeah.
I didn't even think the coaching was bad. I thought they did some of that horizontal, like, they moved the 49ers horizontally. They attacked them deep to prevent them from just attacking those short routes. I don't know, they stuck to the run late, and on defense, good things were happening, except for maybe leaving Mark Barron alone on George Kittle on what would eventually be a holding call that would lead to the 49ers game-winning touchdown. But even that, it was holding, but the Steelers were right in there on Garoppolo. They almost had him sacked. Tuitt was holding on to his legs. Get down here. Just trying not to cheat, because you can't hit guys low. So he was trying to be gentle, because you got to be gentle in today's NFL. And Stephon Tuitt is very cognizant of the rules. That's why he's going to hold a class for Myles Garrett this summer. But yeah, it's just a bummer, guys. I think I honestly, I know I'm going to sound like a homer, but I think the Steelers aren't that bad. I think the 49ers have a really dynamic and well-schemed offense. I think the Steelers actually did a pretty decent job. I know the 49ers are responsible for a lot of their own mistakes. I think the Steelers have played 3 good teams, and normally you'd expect them to win 1 to 2 of those games, and they're just not quite there, and they might be pretty well buggered because of it.
Yeah, they played a 55-minute ball game, basically. I mean, this offense, Shanahan is lauded as, an offensive mastermind, and until getting the ball on a short field with 5 minutes left, San Francisco had been turned over 5 times and had 17 points. So definitely the heroes of the game were the defense. Did you note the performance of Owen?
I don't know if I know what you're talking about, but you have a shit-eating grin on your face. So
0-3?
Yeah, Joey, let's get him.
That's clever, I guess. I don't get how it's a performance. That's fine. I'll take it. I'll hold that water. Any more jokes, or I can end this.
Well, so I wanted to
comment.
I wanted to put out one other thing too. So yeah, Joey was talking about obviously the Shanahan offense is pretty electric, right? And that the Steelers defense did what they did against that offense, I think is optimistic for you as a Steelers fan, or should be optimistic for you as a Steelers fan because of how the 49ers have kind of run themselves. And also something that I've kind of, pointed out is that the 49ers defense, damn, they're shaping up to be pretty fucking good, right? Now, looking back, they've also only played the Bengals and the Bucks. The Bengals, say what you will, they have key players in an offense that can produce. They haven't really yet, but they can. So the 49ers defense I wanted to, kind of highlight for a second. The fact that Mason Rudolph was able to perform, 2 touchdowns and have a 51.85% completion rate. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's not that good, but it's actually not the worst completion rate in the AFC North this week. So that being said, Mason Rudolph, do you think that he's looking to improve, get better, and progress as the season goes on, or do you think we kind of seen what we get from Mason Rudolph?
No, he'll get better. But now that we're doing all these stats, I will say that this came from Steelers Depot, the highest QBR performance this week in the AFC North came from none other than Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a debate, I guess do the Steelers have the best quarterback in the division? Might be the appropriate debate.
Ooh, yeah, that'll be a good debate. We'll do that next episode.
Okay.
Right, guys? Tune in.
I do think that even though I wasn't as disappointed in the offensive line on second watch, I do think that it's something to really look at going forward, that this is supposed to be one of the best lines in the NFL. And right now, they're maybe okay. They're definitely not great. And I think it's it's going to be start time. It's going to be important to start thinking about the loss of Mike Munchak, one of the, if not the best offensive line coach in the NFL, left the Steelers this offseason. And I don't know. I wasn't that freaked out about it, but I'm starting to think I might be a little bit sad now because I just don't think they're performing at the level that I expected them to. So I'll end this Steelers discussion with another Mike Tomlin quote from his post-game press conference.
All right.
We're not into the keep it together discussions. That's not how we're built. We got a game next week. We'll be ready.
All right. We'll be ready. Well, let's move on to the lowest rated quarterback in the AFC North, as it turns out. Yeah, so there's two ways to look at this game. One is positive and one is negative. I don't know how to say that, but they lost the game, all right. But it's kind of strange because, like with last week when they won against the Jets, I was disappointed. When they lost to the Rams this week, I think that it was a pretty graceful loss, which is kind of a fucked up thing to say, right? But I'm actually relatively optimistic with what happened in the game. So with that, let's get into it. So the first thing I have here is penalties. Look, man, the Browns need to figure out what the fuck's going on with penalties. If it wasn't for, and I know, right, like we say all the time, butterfly effect, whatever. If it wasn't for those penalties, there's a lot of different things that could have happened in that game in the Browns' favor. The Browns right now are tied for first place for the most penalties in the league right now with 35. Tying them is the Falcons. But they have overwhelmingly the most amount of yards from those penalties, mainly because a lot of those penalties are like offensive pass interference, offensive holding, those types of things that are those 10-yard chunks, right? So, yeah, the Browns need to figure out what's going on with those penalties. Particularly the offensive line needs to gel. There was a bunch of false starts. And I think it's just because maybe guys just don't fully know the plays or the snap counts. Like, I don't know. But that screwed them quite a bit this game. Now, obviously, it wasn't as bad as it was the previous two games. So that's an improvement. But there were still some critical positions that they lost as a result of that. So moving off of that train, I want to start with talking about the defense. So first off, everybody just kept talking about how banged up the Browns secondary was and how there were so few starters that game, which there really were. And me and Chad were talking about a little bit before the game started and as the game was going on that, you know, they had a lot of people starting at those positions that have started in the past or are still serviceable guys, right? Like EJ Gaines, TJ Carey, so specifically TJ Carey got an interception this game, right? So I think that the depth the Browns have built at the defensive back position had shown that game for the most part. Jared Goff only had like 269 yards, something like that, which, I mean, obviously, you know, you would want less than that, but that's not with an only, what's it called? Backups basically starting at every defensive back position with the exception of Terrence Mitchell. Like, that's pretty good. This Browns team held the Rams to the fewest points this season and to the second fewest points since this season and last season. So if you take this season and last season, this is the second fewest points that the Rams have been held to. First place goes to the Bears, which was 6-15 was the final score on that one. So that's actually pretty impressive too, I think. Knowing how much high-powered stuff they have on offense, right? Todd Gurley only had 43 yards rushing this game. Cooper Kupp blew the fuck up, which we can talk about that in a second. But even though he blew up, it was still only 102 yards, right? So I think that overall, I'm actually pretty happy with the defense, even though obviously they could have stopped him a little bit more, I guess, if that's how you want to put it, you know. But, yeah, I think the defense played pretty good. Schobert ended up picking up a fumble off of what? I think it was Ogunjobi that ended up hitting Jared Goff when he was about to throw. So I'm pretty happy with the defense overall.
Yeah, 20 points to the Rams. It's pretty good. Cooper Kupp killed him.
Yeah.
I thought, but everything else seemed pretty well bottled up for most of the game. I think the offense's inability to sustain drives is really what eventually broke the defense late in the game.
Yeah, for sure. So Cooper Kupp, I mean, like there was just so many times where I think that obviously the Rams have so many different weapons to go to that with a completely backup, secondary on defense, I don't know, maybe they're having difficult trying to figure out who to pinpoint and who to cover and who to focus their attention on. I don't know, but it either seemed like whenever there was a completion to Woods or Kupp, like they were just wide fucking open, like completely wide open, like the coverage was blown. I don't even know what it was, or maybe it was just really good zone reads, but yeah.
I think it was deliberate. I think that they deliberately prevented the big play, and that allowed Cooper Kupp to catch a lot of balls over the middle, and the plan was, as Dick LeBeau used to say, tackle the catch.
Yeah.
They had a guy playing free safety named Burris that was literally signed to the team on Thursday after their final practice of the week, basically. So that's challenging to scheme a solution to. Now, he had been on the Browns for a preseason before, and I guess he was released by the Raiders midweek. So thank you, Raiders, from the Browns organization, because they'd have been truly in deep trouble if they hadn't have gotten a guy that at least knows their system a little.
Yeah.
Burris had an interception in this game. I mean, I don't think you can say anything but absolute enthusiastic praise for the way the secondary played in this game. You give Cooper Kupp those underneath routes. You let him have it. You took away their deep stuff, and you basically took away the running game. And that allowed you to stay really, really competitive. So honestly, hats off to the defense. It was a really good performance.
For sure. And I think we talked about
because I dropped him off my fantasy teams. Honestly, that's probably the cause of it. It wasn't anything scheme related or anything the players did. It was me dropping them from my fantasy teams.
Nice. Yeah. Oh yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit in the beginning of the season, but about the Browns' run defense improving a lot this year, and I think that has definitely shown thus far. Again, with the exception of that 75-yard run from Henry, that was clearly a huge face mask hold on Kirko, but whatever, man, it's okay, it's all good. Joey just looks at me with these angry fucking eyes.
Like, I want you to put a hat on when you're getting ready to like get riled up about the refs.
I almost do it now just
to.
Yeah, I almost do it now just to fucking give Joey a hard time, because every time I start, he just like his eyes just roll in the back of his head, or he just kind of like looks up at me just like. So I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to talk about the offense. The offense.
Yuck.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. Obviously, the Rams defense is pretty top tier. As far as the NFL goes at this moment from what we know, which is still pretty early in the season, but but damn. So let's start with a highlight. Nick Chubb had a fucking great game for sure. He was constantly, like Chad was talking earlier about James Conner. At first you were kind of like, man, I feel like he didn't do a whole lot, but then you go back, rewatch the games, look at some stats, and you're like, damn, he kept falling forward, kept pushing the pile, that kind of stuff. He had like one or two big runs, it's things like that can keep someone honest, so that you can get a pass game going, right? And that's why Nick Chubb is so instrumental to the Browns and what should be success in the pass game. So yeah, man, Chubb's the fucking guy. I love him, and he's unfortunately probably gonna be like one of those unsung heroes that, people. I don't know. I feel like he's gonna get overshadowed because I don't know. I feel like he's not gonna get as much love this year as he should. I don't know why. Just it's a feeling. It's one of those weird feelings.
No one's going to get any love if you don't have a good offensive game here sometime soon.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, I think that basically everything else that's happening is going to kind of overshadow him, and people are going to kind of just look back down on the Browns like they have pretty consistently for a while, and he's not going to get that love. So let's talk about Baker, and I guess just the receiving core as a whole. So Baker Mayfield this week had, biting into the can. Maybe he needed one of those on the fucking sideline. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying, man.
So this week he had a 50% completion rate. That's right, 50.00 for 195 yards total, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So we'll talk about the interception later. Completions. So Odell Beckham gets used a lot in the first quarter, and I feel like we saw that the other games as well. But then like towards the second, maybe a little bit of the second, but like after the second half, for sure, his production goes down significantly. And I don't know what it is, man. Maybe people figure out the game plan, or maybe their game plan is to trick them into thinking we're using Odell the first quarter or first half, and then we just won't use him at all in the second half. I don't know. But in the first half, honestly, the connections between Baker and Odell looked really good. But that just didn't sustain. There was a couple catches by some of the tight ends. Demetrius Harris caught that touchdown. And then there was that Seals that we were talking about, who was, I think, formerly a Seahawk, right? Did we figure that out?
I think he was a Cardinal.
Cardinal,
Ricky
that's right.
Jones. Cardinal.
Yeah, so there were some good completions, but man, second half, it just completely fell apart as far as the offense goes. Just couldn't get anything really going. It's wild. I don't know. It's crazy. This is the worst game that Baker Mayfield has ever had. And I know that's obviously not saying as much given the fact he's only played 16, 17 games or whatever it is. But his, if you look at last year, his QBRs, let's see what his lowest QBR was last year. Was a 70.7, and that was in game 2 versus Oakland, right? And then everything else was much higher than that. And then this game was like a fucking 64, which is the second time he's done a 64.
Yeah. I've got 2 points on the offense. Chubb's fantastic. I think I'm ready to say that Nick Chubb is the best running back in the AFC. My second point is, where's the creativity?
Right.
Man,
I have that. Yeah.
This offense, like, I don't know if it's some kind of like pride, and I don't know if it's Baker is just waiting too long trying to make the deep ball happen, or if they're just refusing to call the types of plays, the quick hitters and things like that can counter a pass rush. But the offensive line is not good enough for them to be so aggressive downfield all the time. I felt like Chubb wasn't really getting involved until the end of the first half, and then in the second half, like, you've got plenty at your disposal, even with Njoku out, and it didn't feel like the offensive minds, whether it's Kitchens or Monken, are helping Baker.
No, it's something that I actually was curious about too. I think Joe and I had like a very short conversation about it last week or the week before with Todd Monken, that's kind of one of the things that I'm kind of bringing up to curiosity for myself, because after watching that 49ers game, two 49ers games, watching the Rams play, watching even some of the stuff that the Ravens have been doing, honestly. You see some of these big plays with wide open receivers and, quarterbacks making quick throws and stuff like that. And you're like, damn, that's a decent, like, that's a good looking offense. That's at least schemed well to help support their quarterback. But I don't know, man. Maybe Todd Monken's offense just isn't all it's cracked up to be. I don't know. I mean, because I just don't see any of those. Even the plays that Baker makes or that the team makes that are big catches, it's not off of some dude that just got blown coverage and, was wide open because the offense was deceptive or sneaky or, threw them a weird look or whatever it was. It was because Baker was able to throw it into a tight spot, which obviously commendation to him, but you can't do that all game, as we saw by a 50% completion rate. Right. So I'm wondering, if any of that has to do with, like you were saying, with Freddie Kitchens and Todd Monken, are they just not putting together a good scheme? Do they not have a good playbook? What is that? I don't know. So
that's an interesting question. I honestly don't think I really have an answer yet. So I guess listeners, you can fast forward 15 seconds, but it feels a little to me like Baker's strengths, and he's a young quarterback, so he's going to go to his strengths. He hasn't seen all the details. He's not a master of reading coverages pre-snap yet. I know we all love him, but these are things he's still learning.
Right.
he thrives on the broken play a little, maybe not even broken play, but like that 2.5 to 3.5 seconds after the snap when the routes are finishing up or even breaking down.
Yes.
And his two best receivers are honestly guys that can get open 0.4 seconds after the ball is snapped. So
yeah,
if they could do a little bit of pre-snap motion and like basically determine what the coverage is, you basically know that at least one of Jarvis Landry or OBJ are going to be open once you've caught the ball, if you're in the shotgun, or once you've finished your 3 or 5 step drop. Like they're going to be. I noted it in the first half when OBJ was very like active. He was getting a lot of these quick passes because you just can't cover him unless you have a clever zone thing going on. And if you're doing that, Jarvis is definitely going to be open on the other side or whatever. So they have options. They just maybe don't. Baker's maybe not quite an expert at utilizing that part of the offense yet. Or maybe it's a coordinator thing. I haven't seen enough from my eye to make that determination.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell for us, sitting on our couches, like, what is the plan? What is the scheme? What's the idea? What was the play supposed to be? When was he supposed to throw it? That kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody can kind of look at it and definitely say that it very much seems like he's just holding onto the ball way too fucking long. For a lot of those plays. And like you were saying too, that's where those guys thrive, is in those quick passes on the slants and stuff like that. So we need to see more of that, I guess. I don't know. My last
who's on the hot seat though?
What's that?
Freddie Kitchens calling plays. Did you listen to his post-game press conference? The media was all up in that business. You going to keep calling the plays? Why don't you let Monken do it for a week? Why don't you just give it a try? Blah, blah, blah. He's not into that.
I thought that was really weird, too. I feel like I keep wanting to talk about it, but I keep not talking about it because we just, get off track or talk about something else. But I've always thought that was kind of weird. Like, I know that he used to be a quarterback, and, like, I guess he was the running backs coach before that, But I don't know, man. Like that's a pretty it's pretty hefty to take on under your belt, especially when you're running with someone else's plays, right? So he's running with Todd Monken's plays, but he's calling them. So it's I don't know, man.
Is he running with Todd Monken's plays?
That's what is supposed to be happening. I don't know, but yeah, I think that's a good question, and I don't hate that question, and I think that that's something they need to think about and explore, because this offense should be able to produce a lot more. But last thing I wanted to mention, Siebert, he's killing it. He's doing great. So plus for him. I'm glad we got
3 more of those and you would have won the game.
Yeah, I know. I mean, let's talk about the interception at the very end, I guess, a little bit. Again, Baker held onto the football way too long. They knew that they could just like blitz and put Baker under a bunch of pressure. And he tried to force a pass. Now, Derek Willis, was it Willis? I think it was Willis. It was 18. Should have probably caught that pass. I mean, it went through his hands to whoever the Rams, DB was that caught it. But, that's what you're going to get with Baker. He's going to try to force it into a tight spot and hope that the receiver can get it. I can't wait till Rashard Higgins comes back, because they seem to have good chemistry, and hopefully they can work with that again. But that's it.
Yeah. Baker's still a young quarterback, too.
Right.
The holding the ball too long thing is a textbook young quarterback problem. So no reason to freak out. Last year, I think he was ahead of schedule a little bit, maybe overachieved some. Mm-hmm. And being a quarterback in the NFL is hard, man. There's a lot to learn. He's got a new offensive coordinator, so they got
Justin,
time.
Stay positive. You're 1 game out of the AFC North lead, and that game is literally next week. So you got to be very excited about Thursday's podcast, talking to Joey about how you're going to take the lead in the AFC North.
That's goddamn
so
right.
Exciting.
No, again, even though they lost this game, I'm still pretty happy with it, mostly because of what we saw in the defense, because of how well the defense performed. And then last thing, the offense, even though they significantly underperformed, it was against good defense. They had a good defense last week with the Jets. They got a good defense next week with the Ravens. Looking after that, though, there should be a lot of easy games. So I guess we'll see what happens. But that's it.
I went the Titans at home.
I know, man. It's just, and like looking at all the Titans' other games, man. Don't get me started. Let's move on. I've already like gone over my time and stuff. What's next?
Your time is up.
Yeah. Right.
Yank him off the stage. Let's talk about another really fun game. By the way, the Browns lost 20-13 for those of you that didn't watch and get on this podcast for news. The Bills played the Bengals this week, the Bungles. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead, looked to be running away with it. Josh Allen doing Josh Allen stuff, being strong, running around, lots of misdirection. Bengals not handling it. And then all of a sudden they just stopped doing it. Came out in the second half and were like, we got this wrapped up. Let's just do some non-play action passes and some run right up the middle. Turns out if you telegraph what you're doing, the Bengals can handle it. And Josh Allen makes really stupid mistakes. So he did a little of that. All of a sudden the Bengals have a 17-14 lead. We are in deep trouble. The Steelers could finish this week at the bottom of the AFC North. This is unacceptable. Somebody do something. And they did. Josh Allen got in there and he drove them down the field, scored a great touchdown. Doesn't matter how it happened. I probably wrote it down, but it's not that important. Basically, all the great defensive linemen that the Bengals still have, even though Ryan Glasgow and somebody else, Carl Lawson, were out, still have a bunch of good ones. They're tackling him. They're grabbing him. They're pulling on him. He doesn't care. He's spinning. He's running. They got one sack, but they probably hit him like 36 times in the game. I counted. And then the Bengals sucked. Dalton threw an interception to end the game. He had probably one of the worst games of his career. He really wasn't even that pressured. The game ended 17-21, Bills. It was a mess, dude. The Bengals aren't good. Like they just shoot themselves in the foot all the time. Like Dalton and Mixon have been in this offense for a few years now. I saw 2 plays where Dalton was handing the ball off to the opposite side as Mixon was running. Both those plays got blown up. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? They I call them the Bungles, and every week they make it so. Like, they just shoot themselves in the foot. They can't tackle. Like, we're gonna be talking about the linebackers every week. We're just gonna be. They started playing more than 2, but they all suck. Like, they all suck. They can't tackle anybody. They can't cover. They can't do anything. Jesse Bates is their best linebacker. I wrote it down again because he had like this crazy hit that caused a fumble on Josh Allen. It was actually, he hit Josh Allen as I think Hubbard stripped the ball. It was awesome. I was like, dude, just play him at linebacker. Just do it. Because they had another guy, something Wilson. Wilson is Jesse Bates' backup. And he had an interception. And I don't think he had a great game. But you know what? You're broken. Put him at strong safety. Put Jesse Bates at linebacker. Play some sort of funky dime all the time. I don't know. It's a mess, dude. I will say this. This is why you guys subscribe to the podcast in the preseason. We talked about Darius Phillips crushing it preseason week 4. What did he come in and do? They gave him some kick return stuff. He runs one back for a touchdown. Yep. Yeah, they held, and it was called back. Classic Bungles. But you know what? It was a great run. And then later, they put him in at cornerback. He intercepted the ball.
Dude, and nice little return.
Phillips. So, Darius Phillips, great work on the D. The other thing I will spotlight is that I do think that the Bengals are starting to show that they have a decent scheme. They showed it against the 49ers. They just kept screwing it up. But again, when they were down 7, or I guess it would have been 14-10, they had a great drive. They started putting Tyler Boyd in motion. He got a lot of easy catches in the intermediate, and then they used it as deception, and I can't remember what they did. One of them was Mixon's big run or screen. They ran Tyler Boyd pre-snap, and then they went the other way to Mixon. And then the other one was the touchdown, which I can't remember who it went to, but they ran Tyler Boyd pre-snap, and they used it as misdirection, and they threw it as good. That was the touchdown to take the lead. So I think that the Bengals have some nice stuff going on schematically. They just need to, execute it better. And, there's things to be excited about as a fan. You just got to get better players, or got to keep coaching them up. And maybe by the time AJ Green comes back and everybody keeps learning, They might be formidable. They might beat a few good teams by the end of the year. They're just not there yet. They just, they got holes in their feet, tons of them. I'm shooting my foot for people that aren't watching this on video. That's what I saw.
Yeah. In the first half, the Bills were really playing to Josh Allen's strengths too. Well, I guess maybe not his strengths, but his limitations as a young quarterback. Everything was nice and short, nice in front of him. It was death by 1,000 cuts, 5-yard pass here, 5-yard pass there. Receivers, running backs, tight ends, everybody getting involved. On the flip side of that, on offense, anybody want to venture a guess how many play action passes were called by the Bengals in the first half?
This is a 0. Double zeros.
Chad's holding up 2 zeros. Not nary a single play action pass was called by young offensive wonderkind Zach Taylor. So that's probably a problem, something they should remedy. Jermaine Pratt, he's doo-doo. That's another reason to get Jesse Bates down in the box.
He did have a tackle, which is more
Jermaine Pratt.
He didn't miss a tackle though. He just was only available to make one, and he did it. Whereas the Virgil guy that starts, he missed like 46 tackles but made 5.
Nick Vigil?
I actually looked it up. I hate stats, but I was like, I don't think a linebacker even has a tackle. Like I looked him up to see, because I was like, this is going to be wild. I'm going to get on the podcast and say that the linebackers made 0 tackles. They didn't. They made like 11, but it was pathetic.
Also, that game-winning touchdown for the Bills was by the ageless Frank Gore. Today on Twitter, Mike Golick Jr. retweeted, have you guys seen the Boston Dynamics robots?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they have a new robot that learned like Simone Biles' gymnastics routine.
What?
And it's like doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And Mike Golick Jr. said, this will be on IR while Frank Gore suits up for week 15 in 2050.
Oh, nice.
Good one.
So good old Frank Gore, man, punching it in. On that last drive, the Bengals also gave up like a 60-yard pass to some rookie tight end where they made him look like Rob Gronkowski in his prime. He was trucking everybody. It was a mess.
God, they can't tackle.
Yeah, man. I mean, same story with the Bengals defense. It just kind of is what it is,
Dude, that D line though. I mean, they got after it. They got right through the blocking. Josh Allen, he might be as hard to tackle as Mr. Lamar Jackson. He is very tough to tackle.
He's rather elusive. Sneakily athletic.
Yeah, something like that, right?
I definitely don't want to criticize like the Bengals players for that element of it, because they got great pressure. They got great pressure with great players, and he's just like really strong and hard to tackle.
Who knows? Maybe they'll go undefeated when AJ Green comes back and still finish 3rd in the division. 4th.
Hey man,
third.
The Bills are 3-0.
I know, man. Isn't that so weird? I still don't think the Bills are good, man. I still don't think.
But they host New England this week, so.
Yeah, so someone's going to. Let's hope that they put them in their place.
Classic something's got to give.
Yeah.
3-0 versus 3-0.
The irresistible force and the immovable object. Is that the pitch we're making right now?
Did you say irresistible?
What should I have
Unstoppable. Said? Unstoppable object and immovable force.
Sounds like it couldn't be resisted. Tomato.
Oh man. Or maybe it was unstoppable force and immovable object. Whatever. Anyways, let's finish up with the top of the division.
Yeah,
against
Joey,
the top of the NFL.
30,000-foot view. How was it this weekend being verbally lambasted by my mother? Chiefs fan and Victor.
It was interesting. You know what? It's a funny thing because eventually I did kind of like a classic Steelers fan move when I was like, oh well, Like, I understand that the Chiefs haven't really won anything in a really long time, so you can just whatever, enjoy your win.
That's when I knew it was over, which for the record was in the second quarter.
Yeah. We'll start on defense, man. Man, the Chiefs are really good. No Jimmy Smith, no Tavon Young. The Ravens gave up one big play touchdown, the 83-yarder on a third down, which is like Patrick Mahomes, third and long. He's got you right where he wants you. I don't know. It was definitely a blown coverage. They were running some kind of zone scheme, one high safety, it looked like. And I mean, Jefferson's just not that dude. So that was a problem. 83-yard touchdown. It was 14-6 at that point. And the Ravens had them third and something long on their own 17-yard line. That kind of blew the game open. So that score held until halftime. I wrote down notes on a bunch of penalty stuff, but I'm not going to talk about it. Other than to say, I do think the officiating in this game was bad. But the difficult thing about it is it was bad on both sides, and it was bad in both manners. There were penalties that should have been called that didn't get called, and also there were penalties, little ticky-tack stuff, that questionable stuff that got called, and they reviewed a pass interference, and I know the league has come out and said unless it's egregious, on Seth Roberts, an offensive pass interference that the Chiefs challenged, looked pretty egregious. Like, yeah, the guys were locked up, but when a receiver locks his elbows or extends his arms, that's typically what they say is like textbook offensive.
I don't know how Carroll won that challenge last week against the Steelers after that. Like, I don't know.
It's the anomaly. It's the one instance where the league stance on it has not been enforced.
It's crazy.
Consistent.
Third quarter, the Ravens defense stiffened up a good bit. I don't think the Chiefs really did much as far as trying to go conservative until very late in the game. Patrick Onwaso had a interception go through his hand, tipped an interception through his hands, and Sammy Watkins was a foot behind him and caught it. And these every little break like that seems to go towards the Chiefs. It's some kind of magic that Patrick Mahomes had. It's the same story last year. But it's week 3, and the defense will get Jimmy Smith back. They'll get better as a unit in the secondary, especially Earl Thomas back there. So I'm not panicking about this game. It ended up being a one-score game, 33-28. Lamar Jackson gives them a chance in any game that they're in. I think he's the most dynamic quarterback in the league, even having just watched Patrick Mahomes. The way that he's willing to use his mobility, that Patrick Mahomes isn't asked to do, but he doesn't really have to, the way that their scheme is. So defensively, they'll learn from it. I have faith in the coaching staff. And it's only week 3. We're 2-1 after week 3. So, and we get to get right against a quarterback who would still have a lower QBR than Lamar Jackson if Lamar Jackson's next 8 passes were all interceptions.
I don't know if that's how that works.
I saw that on Twitter, so it makes it fact.
There's no way.
I was going to say, I just refuse to even bother to research that for the laugh value. I will say that this is perfect for me because Lamar Jackson.
Oh, maybe they mean his total QBR over the entire season. Because right, because he had the 158 and 104, and then he's had 0 interceptions all year.
We don't have to get out the calculators. The point is that Lamar Jackson's had a better year. So we got it.
Yeah, so, he had a rough game, Lamar. I think exactly what I cautioned happened. The Ravens started going for fourth downs early. I think they were pressing. That's the type of pressure that having that other offense waiting to come back on the field does to your team. Chad mentioned that it was the home opener at Arrowhead. Pretty tough environment to go into for a quarterback making his 11th start in the NFL, something like that. He was inaccurate. He didn't complete enough passes. I think the Chiefs even did a pretty good job keeping him in the pocket.
As good as you can.
As good as you're gonna do. He still made some guys look absolutely silly. Where like seemingly guys are running around all around him and he's staying still. And then at other times it looks like he makes 7 moves on a guy who hasn't moved his feet once and it just falls over to the side. Mark Ingram had a fantastic game. That's something that I kind of even wish there was more of, especially early in the game. But the Ravens were 3 for 4 on fourth down in this game. Failed 3 2-point conversions, which is kind of a snowball effect type of thing. The very first touchdown that the Ravens scored, there was like an offside penalty on the extra point, so they got to move the ball to the 1, and John Harbaugh got cute and went for 2. The Ravens did not convert.
Why? Because they didn't give it to Ingram. They ran some date nonsense.
Yeah. Warren Sharp, he's a pretty bright fella. He runs a website called Sharp Analytics. And he talks a lot about position groupings. And he is pretty steadfast that in the red zone, if you're going to run, you run from a spread set. And if you're going to pass, you want to pass from a heavy set, generally speaking. The Ravens didn't really do that. So, yeah, I mean, the Ravens were behind the 8 ball from the start. It was very clear that this was going to be an intense game. The fourth down conversion started on the first drive for the Ravens and didn't stop all game. And it was a good game against a really good football team. The Chiefs are 1A or 1B, depending on how you feel about the Patriots. And I think the Ravens will be back.
So we talked a little bit about play calling with the Browns. So I guess I wanted to... you talked about it a little bit, I guess, with the Ravens. But yeah, man, I don't know. So the 2-point conversions, the fourth down conversions, it seemed like there were quite a bit of those where you could have either A, given it to Tucker and said, hey, kick it, right? Or, yeah, I mean, that's A. That is A. And I think if you do the math, that the points basically would have worked out that again, butterfly effect, right, whatever, that the Ravens could have won. So what do you think about all of the risk-taking that John Harbaugh did? Are you in agreement with it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you frustrated? What do you think about it? Because obviously it didn't pan out, right? I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah. The big thing that started the problems with me was the 2-point conversion. I mean, I think they went for it on fourth down twice in that first drive.
Yeah.
And I think once you go for it once, you're pretty much married to that drive.
I almost feel like that's gambler's fallacy, you know? Or not gambler's, or it's like that investment fallacy where it's just like, well, I've already put into it, you know, I might as well stick.
Not against the Chiefs offense, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they kind of knew. We learned last week that the Ravens didn't handle 4 wide receivers very well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add into 4 wide receiver possibilities, somebody like Travis Kelce, who had a quietly pretty good game, I thought. But that was the thing about this offense is not one guy really hurt the Ravens. It was definitely a group effort.
Byron Pringle did not have 200 yards. That's right. Disappointed. Dude, the gambling was great. The gambling was great. And I will say it based on even acknowledging things. The second 2-point conversion, they were down by 11. It made no sense. It made no sense. The Steelers had a year when they went for 2-point conversions all the time. And one of their favorite times to do it, first touchdown. You put that team down 8-0, it messes with their heads, man. They can't take it, especially guys like Andy Reid with all the charts and shit. It's like, whoa, 8-0. This isn't supposed to happen. I loved it, especially from the one. I just would have gone power. Give it to Ingram. He showed it. He's not getting tackled by the first two guys.
Get all those fat asses in front of him, Ricard and all those guys.
Yeah. And even if they went 2 for 4 on fourth downs, which they basically did, because one of them was that crazy offensive pass interference where Lamar Jackson threw that fly ball off his back foot to wherever, still worth it. Like, you play aggressive, you get them most of the time. The Ravens offense is incredibly difficult to predict, and they do a couple things really well. The deep ball and the running game, which is very difficult to defend both of those. So strategically, loved it. I want to talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson, because I think what we just saw is the real Lamar Jackson. Still pretty good. Impossible to tackle. I thought he read the zone coverage really well again, throwing to the right people, which is pretty great for a young guy, right? Like, he's seeing the zones, the receivers are sitting in the good spots. He was a little bit high. You talked about that. He's going to throw that ball right over people's heads sometimes. He did it. And then he had at least 2 where he ran backwards a while and then threw off his back foot way outside where the camera could see, like he was playing 500. Do you accept that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I accept it. I love it. Now that we have Minka, I'm like, dude, you just keep on throwing it right off your back foot, bro. You just throw that every time.
I don't know. I guess so. Going back to the risk taking and stuff, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I guess maybe it makes for exciting football, but there didn't seem to be a situation where they needed to do it to make up for something or to press something. I get the idea of going aggressive against a team like the Chiefs, but I don't think that it benefited them in the overall looking at the game. And I know that in the situation you can't look at it and tell ahead of time, right? There's no crystal ball or anything. But I think if they would have been more, if they just would have kicked the field goals or extra points, would have probably been closer. Maybe even, I don't want to say they would have won, but maybe. Overall, though,
it was just like the Cardinals game, man. It was a 1-score game, but they were out of it the whole time. They were constantly going from 2 scores down to 1 score down. So yeah, they lost by 5, but it's just like the Cardinals lost by 6. Did they? The Ravens finished the game on the 4-yard line. Like, the Chiefs were always that much ahead. I think the aggression was totally worth it, man.
The 83-yard touchdown was the nail in the coffin, and I kind of knew it in the second quarter. If you let the Chiefs go up 2 scores on you with that offense, pretty good chance you're done.
I would say, with that exception, it was actually a pretty close game for most of the game. So I think as a Ravens fan, you should be optimistic that, like you said, this is what you got out of 1A, was a 5-point game. And it was a 5-point game with, like we were saying, a ton of gambles. And and a banged up secondary. Another banged up secondary, right? But
your running game is also absurd.
Gus Edwards got going.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they were 2 scores down in the second half, midway through the third quarter. And that's kind of when I felt like they really were more towards their identity. They'd go back to that running game, and it worked. You got to love that. Like, a team
it's a hell of a fallback
2
plan.
scores down and still run the ball and know that you can move it and get those points back. Like, I honestly, you got an exciting team to watch this year. It's going to be a total shame when the Steelers come from out of nowhere to win the division. Honestly, I feel bad for you.
Come back from behind.
Right now, this is a real
13-3.
You have a lot to be excited about. A lot.
Yeah, I hope that later in the season, the the Ravens really find their identity as a running offense. Like the last 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the season were fun and it was awesome, right? But you still have effectively a rookie quarterback. I really want this team to be a running football team that the passing game accentuates it. The tight ends are fantastic. Hayden Hurst had 2 catches.
Whoa.
And Mark Andrews went into the week leading tight ends in receptions and yards. I don't know if he left that week that way. Hollywood Brown has proven to be a really dynamic wide receiver. So the threat of the deep ball helps out the run game also. And if you really, really start getting the run game juiced up, play action becomes a very big threat. So I think in a perfect world, that's what the Ravens offense figures out that they need to be this year.
It was a good fight. You thought the game was over in the second quarter with the 83-yard touchdown. I thought the game was over about 5 minutes before kickoff when Jamal Charles was banging that giant drum and the crowd was out of control. Tomato.
But I tell you what, man, I was fired up after the Chiefs punted and the Ravens scored on their first possession.
So something that me and Chad were talking about, I guess probably should have talked about this offline, but we want to redo like a state of the division kind of thing.
I thought we were going to do that next week.
No, well, I was saying that we were going to talk about starting to do that and kind of like reevaluate all of our picks and all of our schedules and stuff like that for, who we think is going to be where. And I also thought we came to the conclusion, though, that it would be best during week 7 because 3 of the teams have a bye.
Yep.
So look out for that. I think that'll be really fun because if we see the same progress that we've seen in the first 3 games through the rest of the season up to that point, there's gonna be some major shifts in like the rankings, standings, and everyone's perception of the division. So, but what else? Joe, you had something you wanted to throw at us?
Yeah. So I saw an interesting little exercise today. And then after this, I guess we can still do players of the week.
Oh, that's right.
Ooh, right.
I completely forgot.
Do you want to hit that first?
No, finish your thing.
Okay.
I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite player that doesn't play for your NFL team?
Active?
Favorite player in the league. Yep.
Man, I always used to have one. It was always I'm going to sound like a real butthead right now, but you know that awesome strong safety on Seattle? He just retired.
Cam Chancellor?
Yeah, he was my guy. Now I got to reorient my whole business.
Hold on, let me look through.
Every NFL team's roster.
Well, no, just kind of like look through the teams, just like see if like one like really pops out to me.
I'll go while you're doing that. I purposely stayed away from former Ravens.
Right.
Chad's new favorite fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. He's pretty high up there for me. He used to play for the Ravens. Fullback factory, Baltimore Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite non-Raven player right now in the league is Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, that's nice.
I really like young, brash, relatively untouchable corners. Richard Sherman filled that void in his prime in the Legion of Boom days.
Dude, you like assholes. Just say it up, straight up.
Yeah,
he's an asshole.
I like guys that could be wrestling heels. But I think all time, it'd probably be Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
For as much off the field as on the field.
Yeah.
That guy's just an incredible human.
We talk about him all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Good all time.
I don't have a good answer.
It's always going to be a defensive player for me. But I will say I do really like Patrick Ricard. I really like him a lot. I'm gonna throw a couple out there because honestly, I love Patrick Ricard, but he's not always on the field, and he's hard to like always watch. But two guys that I will turn on a game just to see what they're doing, and they don't even have the ball, especially after this week with all the replays I got to. Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack. Those guys are doing jujitsu on people, and it is mean, and it's awesome.
Aaron Donald is a freak, man.
Dude, he's just
Khalil Mack's on that level too.
Dude, they're crazy. That strip that Khalil Mack had, just like, it looked so easy. He was just like, dude, what are you thinking? He wasn't even like celebrating. He was just like, dude, you idiot. You don't throw the ball when I'm on the field.
Justin?
I don't know, man. I've been looking through and I'm trying to think of someone interesting. Because like there's a couple of them that I like popped out in my head. Yeah, like Khalil Mack was one that popped out in my head. Alvin Kamara is one that popped in my head. I really like Alvin Kamara a lot. But I feel like I want to find someone more interesting than that, you know? I don't know. But since I can't find one off the top of my head, who's that linebacker that the Colts just signed last year that was like the rookie? Or that they just drafted last year that fucking was killing
Leonard?
it? Yeah,
Darius
man.
Leonard.
He was a monster last year. I haven't watched a lot of him this year, but I really liked him too. So I guess that'll be mine because I'm trying to be interesting. And former... no, never mind. All right. Yeah, that's it. So
all right,
I guess
fellas,
offensive...
yeah. Let's hear your nominees for AFC North Offensive Player of the Week. It's really weird when I was looking at the slate of games because all our teams lost.
Yeah.
So it's like really difficult to, try to find some silver linings and get some players of the week in here.
I don't have a good defensive one, so I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No.
you want to start with defense?
I'll do defense.
Yeah, because I was about to say I'm just gonna pass because I don't have a good defensive one at all. I'm just gonna be like Schobert because that sweet fucking scoop up that he had, it's gonna be super homer. So,
well, that's part of what we do here. So watch and learn. I'm gonna nominate the newest star member of the AFC North, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who had an incredible reflex interception and a beautiful forced fumble. On a perfectly timed hit. He immediately made an impact with the playbook, and I think he's got a bright future full of highlights in the AFC North. And let's get it started with one fresh digital trophy, Player of the Week.
I'll jump on that. Actually, yeah, he did play really fucking well. So, there you go.
Well, Justin, I was going to give you a nice little surprise homer pick to vote for, so you can flip-flop and vote for this fine young gentleman in the poll when we post it tomorrow morning. TJ Carey.
Yeah.
He not only led the Browns in tackles from the secondary, pretty impressive. He also had an interception and 2 pass deflections. So filling in the absence of some secondary injuries, I thought TJ Carey really stepped up and help give the Browns a chance.
Yeah, I'll jump on that one too.
For the record, Justin, you should probably vote for Minkah Fitzpatrick because of your history of voting for guys that commit roughing the passer penalties. Minkah had one of those this week, and TJ.
By the way, the Browns have the most
that's a
roughing.
Stat you should like.
The Browns have the most roughing the passer penalties of any team, and it's with 5. And I want to say, I don't know this for a fact, but I want to say that they're all from Myles Garrett because I know at least 4 of them are. So I don't know who the 5th one is, but I'm saying that it probably is Myles Garrett because you had the 3 in the Jets game and you had 1 in the Titans game. But
I also heard a stat about him. He leads the NFL in sacks over the last 2 years and also in penalties. So
yeah,
he's not just a one-trick pony.
Yeah. Nice, perfect. Yeah, TJ Carey, we talked about him a little bit before the game started because he was going to be starting, as a safety. And, yeah, man, love him.
All right. How about on offense?
So I am going to go with a homer pick on this one and say Nick Chubb because I fucking love the way he played. So
24 carries for 90 yards, totally above average. That's awesome. I'm sure he'll get a lot of votes. Let's talk about some real nominees here. I'm talking about the QB with the highest QBR of anyone in the AFC North this week. Mason Rudolph showing tons of heart. He had 2 passes that went more than 4 yards beyond the line of scrimmage this week. Guess what happened on both those passes? Touchdown. That's what I'm talking about. All he needs to do is throw the ball, and they score touchdowns every time. Do you realize how many points they're going to score once they realize that? It's going to be crazy. Let's give him the award. But seriously, Mark Ingram.
Thank you. Mr. Mark Ingram, not only is he the bulldog of the Ravens offense, he wears that sweet mouthpiece that looks like he's got gold vampire teeth or bear teeth or something. He had 16 carries for 103 yards and 3 touchdowns. Pretty impressive. A lot of that in the second half. So Mark Ingram's my nominee.
If you can't vote for Mason Rudolph, you probably should vote for Mark Ingram. No offense to Nick Chubb, who I think is very talented
and yeah. Total yards, it's pretty close. Mark Ingram has it more though, obviously, in significantly fewer carries though.
Also, he scored a lot of points.
He did score lots of them points. So there's that.
Interesting little tidbit.
Well,
from
Nick
the
Chubb
Ravens
should have
game.
scored a touchdown, but whatever. Anyways,
all of their touchdowns were scored on the ground. Lamar had 1 and Ingram's 3. So a little bit of we've been talking about regressing to the mean a lot this year. The Ravens offense definitely did some of that this week.
Yeah, I had a nice joke lined up for that on Lamar Jackson's deep ball accuracy. There'll be plenty of chances, I think.
I'm sure.
Yeah, what was it? We were saying, like, every time you hear that he, like, overthrown or threw too high, take a drink. You'd be fucking hammered by the end of the first quarter.
It would have been awesome if we were live streaming the game to watch Joey do that.
I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have been fun for anybody.
This guy.
We'd have had an intervention on Monday morning.
Say, man, shit. It would have been about as fun as when I was watching the Titans game. That was pretty fucking not fun either for anybody.
Yeah. Well, don't feel bad, Justin. Don't feel bad, Justin. The Chiefs and the Titans are basically on the same level.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much the same football.
Pretty much the same team. All right. Well, let's get starting to wrap it up. So that was the Week 3 review. That's what we thought of it. That's the way that we see it. That's our story. And we're sticking to it. Wasn't that somebody's tagline or something? I don't know. Whatever. I'm stealing it. But so that being said, if you want to interact with us live while we're doing these things, feel free to. All right. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And if there's ever a time that you're going to want to do it, it's going to be this upcoming Thursday and the following Tuesday. Because that's when the Bengals and the Steelers play each other and the Browns and the Ravens play each other. It's going to be a fucking awesome week. It's going to be a lot of fun. So tune in for that. Always subscribe, rate 5 stars, all that business. Tell everybody about us. We're going to have the polls up for the offensive and defensive players of the week, so join in on those. Leave some comments if you have any write-ins that you're looking for. Pigskin Pick'em. So again, Mike, you won this week. So congratulations. You get bragging rights, I guess. I don't know. And yeah. Anything else you guys got?
Tune in Thursday to hear about how the Steelers are not going to be in the basement of the AFC North next week. I'll explain it because it has to be explained, apparently.
Did you do your pick-up already?
Also, Steelers not pointing the finger. Cam Hayward said today, for any guy pointing the finger, I'll break their damn finger if they do.
Ooh. That's right. All right. Well, join us for that. It should be fun. It'll be good stuff. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for listening. We know we got some of you guys and gals out there, and we appreciate it. Just wanted to say that. I don't think we have ever really mentioned that, but we do appreciate it. Give us purpose to get together twice a week and shit on each other's football teams.
Yeah, I think we get a little more than I really ever expected anybody to give a shit about our podcast. So it's pretty cool.
Fun. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, so with that, I picked the Bengals to win next week, and I'll see